Hi, Wanaben. I'm joined by my friend and friend of our network, Ben Cooley, who leads Hope for Justice. Hope for Justice is a great partner with Wanaben. And we're going to find out a little bit about what Hope for Justice is up to and how we can get involved. Hi, Ben.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, thanks. Thanks for joining us today. We'd love to hear a little bit about Hope for Justice, just the kind of nutshell, and then we'll go into a bit more detail.
Well, Hope for Justice is an anti-slavery organisation. We kind of have four main things. We prevent exploitation, we rescue victims of modern-day slavery, we restore them through our lighthouse programs where we have residential treatment centres, trauma-informed care for children that have been rescued, and then we reform society, right, to work with governments, with businesses. We represent 9 of the FTSE 100 companies, helping them to address slavery in their supply chains. All of what we do, we helped 102,000 children in our programs last year. All of it is because we want to live in a world free from slavery. Every boy, man, woman, and child living in freedom.
Wonderful. Tell us your story. How did Hope for Justice start?
Yeah, well, I was an opera singer. I know you probably won't believe that, Joy, but I used to wear tights and makeup and dance around. And
lovely.
I used to do that in operas as well. And it was just a little joke. Hopefully some of you watching this right now in your living rooms will be like, oh, that's so funny. I attended an event that Rob and Marion were running at the time, a few of the women that were there. I was just there to help out, and I heard about this issue called modern slavery. 1.2 million children a year sold, 2 children every minute. And I walked out that building that night and I thought, wow, if that was my daughter, I would do something. And it was the next thought that changed the course of my life. They are someone's daughter, I should do something. So I did what any young, passionate 26-year-old would do. I booked an arena to tell the church about it. We got 5,884 people to our first event. And from there, we've kind of developed it, 10 countries, 32 locations. And, you know, it is what it is now. It's amazing just in the last 11 years.
Amazing. So tell us, like, right up to date, how has the COVID pandemic affected you and the people that you serve?
Yeah, well, it's massive, actually. I mean, I think the reality is, I think no one can measure what the impact of vulnerability has been created because of basically lockdown and how governments have addressed the issue of the pandemic. Well, this, you know, I'll just quickly, briefly describe what's happened, right? So there's 3 stages to the addressing the pandemic. The first stage is the coping of the virus, right? So that's like the impact onto the health services, impact onto kind of like the actual virus onto people, the death count, et cetera, and it's awful. I mean, people have lost their lives because of COVID-19. It's terrible, right? But it's also that impact and how it's been addressed with the lockdown is then impacted onto the second stage of the pandemic, which is then the economic impact with, you know, in April, a 20% drop in the economy. You know, in America, 40 million people have lost their jobs. The UN says that 1 billion people, listen to me, 1 billion people have lost their temporary work in places like China, India, a lot of African states as well, right? So you're creating this vulnerability, right? And now with some of what's the economy that's happening, it's then creating a third stage impact, which is then the impact onto supply chains, right? So because people haven't been able to harvest the crops, right, because of being locked down, and a lot of the world's population lives on 90-day harvests, so they can't harvest the crops, they can't sow the crops, and therefore we're going to end up with food poverty on an unprecedented level. You know, the UNICEF have already brought out a report that said that 12,000 people extra a day are dying from starvation because of that. Now, the other impact of COVID-19 is that the legislation in some countries has started to change because they want to get people back to work, right? And so legislation in parts of India, local legislation, they've actually banned human rights legislation for up to 3 years so that businesses can get back with little or no regard for the impact on human trafficking, modern slavery, et cetera, et cetera. Companies that we represent are saying that the human rights agenda has taken a 9 to 10 year step back with how they're going to address it, right? So how has it affected Hope for Justice? Well, never in our time, in our history, has there been literally billions of people that are now without work, at risk of food, their vulnerability, and the number one, you want to ask, of the hundreds of thousands of people that we've dealt with the victims of modern day slavery, the number one factor is this, that ties them all together, is they were all vulnerable. And so now we're stating a crisis on an unprecedented level on vulnerability.
Yeah, wow. And so you're still active and you're pushing in. And when we think of some of the nations that you've talked about, or we think about modern day slavery, we are thinking India or Cambodia, but Hope for Justice has been really active in the UK as well. And I know there's a high profile case last year that kind of raised a lot of our awareness. Can you tell us a bit about what you're doing in the UK and how you're engaging?
Well, we rescue victims in the UK. I mean, the first person that we ever rescued was a British girl that was trafficked, and the reality of it is that this case came to light, and we had investigators that actually some people, the crazy people, I don't know if you remember, but I actually, when I did the one event, I literally left from the one event to do this crazy challenge where I cycled or I talked about it at the one event, where I cycled from Latvia to Southampton. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, I remember.
And we fundraised for this event, this office in West Midlands, and basically that office rescued 60 people that uncovered the largest gang in British history that trafficked 400 individuals into the West Midlands area, and were exploiting them in all manner of ways. And it was the largest gang in British history. It was on BBC, CNN, Fox News, etc., etc. We rescue victims here in the UK, and we advocate that they get the help that they need, and we help them get the help that they need to recover. But there are now, the Home Office says there's over 100,000 victims of modern slavery in the UK. So more needs to be done, and we've got boots on the ground. We're looking at expanding our work, accelerating our work, because I don't know about you, I hate the fact that it's gone off in Cambodia, Vietnam, and Ethiopia and other places that we work. But you know what? It shouldn't be going on in my country either. Yeah, so that's why we want to have a home and abroad strategy. Wow.
Yeah, I love your passion. So tell us, I mean, this has been a crazy year so far, but tell us your most meaningful moment over kind of the last year or so.
Well, do you know what? I've got to say, I mean, I've met some amazing people this year, right? Even on Zoom, I've met amazing people. But like you, John, I've met you. It's always got to be about people, and I met a mother of 14 years old that had a baby 3 months old that was being commercially exploited, and we were able to get her and her daughter out, and we had to pay for reconstructive surgery for the baby because of what had happened. But I saw hope in her eyes. The mother that was so broken, we gave her hope back. And I think, as much as you can get excited about scale, and you can get excited about how many countries, and you can get enamored with how well you've communicated or how well events have gone, reality is the kingdom is about people. I follow a carpenter that says, whatever you did unto the least of these, you did it to me.
Yeah.
And 3-month-old baby. Well, that 3-month-old baby is going to have a different future.
Yeah. Wow.
Because we, the church, decided to be the church and break down every wall of oppression and fear. Because we believe that freedom is worth the fight and justice is non-negotiable. We refuse to abandon the least, the last, and the lost. Wow,
we're with you, Ben. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing your passion. How can we as a network, as individuals and churches, connect with you, engage with you, support you? What can we do?
Well, there are many ways that you can help us, but I mean, I think one of the ways, you can just go on hopeforjustice.org right now, and you can click on become a guardian, right? Just support, get involved. Many people say, I want to do something about the issue of modern day slavery. I feel moved to do something. Well, help us get more boots on the ground, right? You know, help us to get more investigators, social workers, trauma-informed care. You know, with the increased vulnerability, and with the fact now they're predicting a 40% drop in charitable giving, let's rise up in this moment rather than put back, right? I would hate for COVID-19 to be something that hinders, harms, scars, mars the fight against slavery. I want it to accelerate it so that more freedom happens, more justice happens, more. So I want to just encourage you, get on Hope for Justice, or you can reach out to our Facebook, our Instagram. You know, we're on all of those such social media things, you know, that you probably want to switch off right now, but just get in touch with us. Phone our office. Just do something. You know, Edmund Burke said, all that's required for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. I want to just leave you with one quote, if I can, because many people, when they hear me speak and they hear me speak about 3-month-old baby, they go, Ben, what can we do? Like, is there literally, there's nothing, there's no impact that we can bring. And I want to say, if you're watching this right now, one of my favorite quotes to speak into that mindset right now, when you were listening, you were moved with that 3-month-old baby, you were like, we can't do anything. Surely there's millions of slaves. Can we make a difference? Well, my favorite quote at the moment is this: no one raindrop ever felt responsible for the flood. Have you ever thought about that? It's actually when we all join little by little, shoulder to shoulder, that we can bring a tsunami of hope. We can change it. We can bring hope. We can end slavery.
Amen. Thank you, Ben. And I know Ground Level, the leadership team are really, really honoured to partner with you and Hope for Justice. And we're praying for momentum and increased success with everything you do. Amen. Thanks for joining us.